Hey everybody, good to see you again. Today I am going to touch on early onset dementia. Early onset dementia is someone who has been diagnosed with dementia that's under the age of 65. So can you imagine being in your 40s, 50s, early 60s, and you are all of a sudden forgetting names, children's names, forgetting to get the mail, just everything, that's part of like your daily living, that it's totally slipping your mind. Just sit in that and imagine that for a second. I recently met a woman who just got her diagnosis. She is only 48 years old. She is devastated and she is completely terrified, rightfully so. So it's been like, over the last couple years, she thought that it has something to do with like a recent death in her family. I believe it's her mom, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously that took a toll on her mentally and physically. And that's when she kind of felt around a time where she was forgetting things more frequently. And she's type A personality, very good at her job, very anal woman, and all of a sudden she started slipping with her job duties. And what really was an alarm for her was she was forgetting how to get home, or going to work she would get lost. So imagine that, like you're driving your everyday routine and all of a sudden you don't know how to get home or you don't know how to get to work. She was forgetting those things, so she went to see a doctor. And it's very typical for physicians to kind of brush it off because it's not something that you really hear about. It's not something that's really talked about in today's age, but it should be, because there's tens of thousands of people who are being diagnosed with this early onset every year. And again, this woman is 48 years old, so imagine that. So anyways, I just want to like not only bring awareness, but just bring hope. Obviously, it is always easier to provide hope, confidence in a situation when you're not the person that's wearing the shoes. I get that. But it is not the end of the world. I would say, if you are not a person that believes in prayer, that maybe it's something that you should consider, not just for change per se, but just for your peace of mind, right? So if you're noticing little things about yourself, now I'm not speaking here and there, I mean regularly, that you're noticing. You're forgetting things. Where did I put this? You're in mid-conversation and you're not remembering where you left off, and all of those things, I would say to record it, because you never know when you're going to need to go back and look at those dates. Once it starts to affect your daily life, I would say like something major, like you forgot to pay a bill, you forgot to pick your kid up or something like that, right? Then it's time to make a doctor's appointment. I would hope that you have an amazing primary care physician, but I have found that like doctors don't always take this very seriously, so it can easily be pushed off to the side. But in that case, I mean, if you're serious about getting the help that you need, then maybe switching physicians. And there's testing obviously that needs to be done, so it'll be a physician, and then they have cognitive tests that they will give you, and then you would need to see a neurologist, so a specialist that specializes within the brain. And you can also get a brain image that will actually physically show that there has been some change in your brain. Now, I'm not sure how that goes on the insurance side, if that's something that you can just request in this scenario, but I know that there's plenty of resources out there for you to, get the answers that you need. Support groups are extremely important. A lot of times people don't have the support they need with friends or family, but wherever you live, you can just Google support groups for dementia, and you'd be amazed like what community can do to help you. This is scary, right? Especially if you're in your 40s and your 50s, even in your 60s, right? And you can no longer go to work because it's affecting you in the way that it is. So my thought process is, you know, I always think about the food industry and the food that we eat and how it's so much different than it used to be. The processed foods and the things that are legal here, but they're not legal in other countries that they give us, and we eat it, and we're all eating the same foods, right? So what's changing? What is it what stands out, right? What's the common denominator of why this is happening so often? Because you didn't hear about this back in the day. If you did, it would be a rare situation, obviously. So yeah, eating your food from the ground, your whole foods, not easy. I know we all love the sugars and all of that, but at least starting and being very intentional about it. Neurologically, like reading. I know probably most people don't like to read, but reading helps your brain. Crossword puzzles. All of those are stimulants for your brain. Exercise it does not just help you physically, it helps you mentally as well. So all of those things to take into consideration now before anything happens. Not to say that it will, but you know, being proactive. And for those that are suffering from early onset or caring for someone, it could be, you know, a sister, whatever, just, you know, being encouraged and using your resources and doing the best that you can, because it is a very ugly disease. Typically early onset dementia is not like the typical dementia, because again, dementia can start as early as your 30s, right? But it takes decades for you to actually see how it manifests. Where early onset dementia, it actually moves pretty quickly. So it can progress quick, like year after year, year after year. And you would start to see the mental decline fast. And that is extremely scary, I know. So, yeah, I just wanted to come on and, you know, speak on that. It's completely heartbreaking to have talked to that woman that's only 48, and, you know, she has her whole life ahead of her, and now it's like she's feeling completely blindsided by this. So, you know, it's not a senior thing. People, that's like the biggest myth, where people feel like, oh, when you get old, you get it. No, that's not a thing. It's not attached to an age at all. It is not hereditary. I know that they say that it's not hereditary. I know plenty of seniors that are completely with it mentally, 80s and 90s. They just have a caregiver for companionship reasons, right? So that myth, we can bust that right now, because it's not true. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to Cali Girl EDU, and I will talk to you guys soon.